Hi, folks. There are many things to talk. I don't know where to start. There is this one study from the Federal Statistics Office here in Germany that says that the population at risk of poverty has risen to 20.9%. It's more than one-fifth of the population now is on the brink of poverty, or at least at risk of poverty. This has many factors. I see this is a logic outcome of the last 10, 15 years of neoliberalist policies from the uh, government before of the Frau Angela Merkel, but also from the last 3 years that were extremely violent, extremely bad for the economy because of all the lockdowns and all this stop of the normal process of an industrial country, which is still the engine of the European Union and the fourth largest economy in the world. But this is the point. How come it be that one-fifth of the population is at risk of poverty? This is incredible. As this government, this new government, three parties coalition, has moved in, they have also made a lot of problems, especially from the green area of this obsession of the deindustrialization of this industrial country, and then with the sanctions to the largest energy supplier to Germany, which was Russia. And now all the consequences are out there. We are seeing these visibly, the industry and the inflation more, everything more expensive. And this is the normal result of all these, how do you say this, not pragmatic, very dogmatic policies. And connecting with that I already talked 2 days ago, or the last one of the last programs, that Europe is now not, the politicians are not defending their interests or the interests of their populations or their countries, but they are fully aligned with one voice, one centralized policy, which is the American consensus. Actually, there was this lecture by Jake Sullivan, I think, one of these days, I think was in Chicago last month or so, that he talked about the American consensus with a very arrogant outlook, because he set it as for granted that now we are living in the Washington consensus. I think that these were the words. I don't know if that is in the Atlantic or one of these magazines. If I find this article, I'll put it here down below for the ones that might interest, because it actually points for where we are heading, everyone. And the Europeans here are clearly the weak link of this project, the Euro-Atlantic project. And we are working, as Europeans, we are working actually for the benefit of the American reindustrialization, which is an old, from the predecessor, from the last president Trump. He wanted to do that, and Biden is fulfilling all these policies, but at the expenses of the Europeans. So we have a political elite, a political leadership that doesn't care about the population, doesn't care even about their countries or their industries of the countries. Is a new thing. Is really, you can call it globalism or whatever, but actually this is the dollar system. The G7, European Union, the US, the Brits, the Japanese, the Western, the collective West, uh, and they are fully in this. They are fully on this war in Ukraine. It is disgraceful for, especially for the Europeans, because we are in Europe. This conflict is in Europe, and here in Germany, just for an example, 3 days after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, 3 days only, and Chancellor Scholz has announced 100 billion euros extra for the military. This was only 3 days after the invasion. And then you might ask yourself, why does he make a decision like in 3 days, takes a decision of this nature, when normally Germany has an whole process of, it's very bureaucratic, and they think about everything before they take any decisions, especially a decision of this nature, 100 billion euros. And then you ask yourself and say, wouldn't not be normal that if the Russians invaded Ukraine, the Germans would appeal for negotiations, for diplomacy, to maybe to see if there was something to do about an withdrawal of the Russians? No, they didn't do nothing of that. 3 days later, he was in the parliament, and the parliament was standing and applauding him because of these extra 100 billion euros. Because if as it was everything planned to be like that, so you see no goodwill from the European part, especially from the German government, this government. For example, right now in Germany, we have the health system. The minister, I think himself, said that there is 17 billion euros missing from the whole system that needs for the health centers, the hospitals, equipment, everything in the health system. 17 billion. It's a lot of money. Is precisely what Germany has sent to Ukraine since 1 year. 1 year Ukraine war in weapons to be melted in the Russian fire, under Russian fire. 1 year, 17 billion, the same that German population needs in healthcare. Just to see all the consequences of this, because sooner or later people will start revolting and protesting, and the elections will be this junction from left and right, this transversal front, which we will talk one of these days for sure, because this is very important and it will be news everywhere. And but if it is not enough, all this was not enough, the 17 billion, 100 billion for the military. Now, there was in this German, very interesting, but unfortunately is only in German, Telepolis, and a magazine, online magazine with good articles about geopolitics, economy, things like that, which now says that in the parliament they are debating not 100 billion to the military industrial complex here in Germany, but 300 billion. This is a lot of money. This is bigger than GDP of many countries in Europe, just for weapons in Germany. And even worse is that this comes from the Parliamentary Weapons Commission or something like that. This was an SPD, Social Democrats, the socialist, left wing, the party in the government, the major party in the government, same party as Scholz, Chancellor Scholz. This woman, I don't remember her name now. She says that we need already now 300 billion in the military, in defense, as a budget, yearly budget. And the opposition, the biggest party in the opposition, CDU, is absolutely comfort. They say the same. Yes, we need this because the CDU actually is the more Atlanticist party in the parliament here in the Bundestag. So not surprisingly, they agree with this. I don't know. There was no mention about the liberals, normally very very pro-American, and the Green, who was converted now in the most bellicose, most military. We call them now the olive green, the army green. So they were the former ecologists and pacifists, and now they are the ultras. We knew this woman, Annalena Baerbock, came from the London School of Economics, World Economic Forum, so sponsorized by the Americans to fulfill a job, and so she makes a lot of pressure to sustain and to help Ukraine, and also against China. This is a very dangerous element in the government. But right now, if someone is to fall in the government, will be the Ministry of Economy, also from the Greens, and the number 2 of the government, Robert Habeck, because of scandal. So some scandal here about the gas, the heating pump, and this was a huge scandal, corruption, but not directly with Ukraine, sanctions, China, not with international politics. Actually, it is a small thing compared to what this woman Baerbock said. And the problem here is that, as I said before, politicians they don't care about the population. I told in another video that this is converting now in a kind of Soviet Union. The most similar thing that we have seen was Soviet Union. Very centralized, multinational, but everyone says the same thing. Nobody dares to be different, excepting Hungary now here in Europe. And the minister Sijarto came today again against the sanctions and against sending weapons to Ukraine. Well done for him and for his country, because they are showing an alternative, a valid alternative for all these. This is a dystopia what we are seeing, this European Union. We are the weak link of this global dollar system, and we are being used, but they don't care. Actually, the foreign affairs minister, Baerbock, last year said very clearly in Prague in a meeting around the NATO thing. I don't know what it was exactly, but she said, I don't care about my voters. And she said about her voters, which is very minor. But she's only one of the 3 parties in the government. Only a minority voted for her, not even 20%. So you can imagine what she thinks about the other voters, the most of the Germans, the 80%. She doesn't care nothing. She said her commitment is with Ukraine. She said very clearly, this is on record. And actually, the German media, which are everything is controlled, they didn't talk about that, and they even said that was fake news, when was clearly there was on record, and there was on Facebook. I even published the video on Facebook, and then this video disappeared because Facebook said, "Oh, it's out of context," and it was not out of context. The woman said that she didn't care about the problems of the Germans, social problems of Germans, because she was committed with Ukraine. It's so simple as that. That is the minister, or this the number 1 of foreign affairs in Germany. So this is the scene. We have problems here now emerging from all this craziness of the sanctions and all these things. And now with China, they are a little bit more cautious, because if they do, they shoot in the other foot. I mean, you cannot walk with no feet. So right now they are walking in one feet. Is the China, all the partnership, the trade that German industry relies upon. A lot of customers in China for the cars, everything. So right now they in the G7 they agreed not to decouple, like they like to use these fancy words they come with, but they are de-risking. So they are putting this, waiting for the right time to making this decoupling, because then you see very clearly that the Europeans are being manipulated by Joe Biden. In this case, is the president right now in the United States, because they are recovering. They are recovering in the United States. They are trying to recovering. They are somehow recovering a lot of industry, the microchip industry as well, but they are doing it at the expenses of us. So this is not the right time to launch the Europeans against China, but they will sometime, and then Europe will be in a big problem if we don't have politicians like in Hungary coming into power, and that would be very interesting to see. Let's see if this year brings some surprises in that field of the political spectrum in each country. I think that it must happen something here in Europe, because we cannot see this decay, this decadence before our eyes without doing nothing. So for today, I think it is everything. We have another things to talk in another chapter. We will talk about other areas. So keep posted.